Hey guys, welcome. It is Friday, and I told you yesterday that I really wanted to go live today to talk about SEO tools. There still seems to be a lot of questions about which tools should I use, what plugins, just a ton of stuff. So I thought, you know what, maybe today, because it's Friday, it's a good day to talk about tools. And I have a whole list of things I want to share with you. So let me just kind of go through these things and share them with you. So number one, I want to talk about Google Search Console. If this is not your number one SEO tool, I'm not really sure what else you could put in replacement of it, but this is absolutely good for everything. It costs nothing, so it should be your primary go-to if you are a business owner. This should be something you already have set up. If you don't even know how to set it up, don't worry about it. You should ask your SEO lead or anyone in charge of your SEO program. But this is definitely something you should have set up. Kind of another thing I wanted to point out, just as we're getting started, thinking about those that are a business owner or if you're in-house on the agency side. Before we go into talking more about tools, I just want to make sure that you understand that you do need tools. And I kind of say, how can you possibly build a house without any kind of set of tools? So you do need one. You also need a budget for tools. So if you're the business owner or if you're a digital marketing executive and you're thinking about bringing SEO in-house, you have to really consider not only the individual, if you're bringing an individual in-house to lead your SEO effort, or if you're going to work with an agency or an outside consultant, you really need to think about a budget, not just what is the cost of having that work done, but if I'm bringing somebody in-house to manage my SEO program, I should have a decent budget set aside so that person doesn't have to go in their own pocket and pay for tools. And I've actually recently heard somebody that I'm working with, and she's working on a very large, well-known brand and is pulling money out of her own pocket to pay for tools. And I told her, you really need to stop that. And I think it's a matter of helping the her internal senior leadership team understand that she needs to have some tools to work with. So always set a budget aside. The budget can range, of course, but hopefully it's more than a few $100. So hopefully it's something more significant than that. And if you're on the SEO side, if you're the SEO professional yourself, if you are working with someone who doesn't provide you and you're in-house and they don't provide you with those tools, you really need to kind of do a sort of a business justification as to why you need these tools and help them understand. Many people don't know, so it's a good thing to educate them in terms of what it is you actually need. And also, if you're on the agency side, many times what I'll do is I have set of tools for all of my clients. They don't need to acquire them, but as I'm working with clients, I will come equipped with my own tools. Okay, I just want to make sure we got that out of the way because we do need to account for a budget before we get into tools. Now, if we get into, as I said, the number one, which is Google Search Console, which is free and should be set up by everyone, whether you're working in-house or working on the agency side, that client or that work that you're working with should be using this. Number two is Screaming Frog. Screaming Frog is one of my favorite tools. Great for auditing, good for migrations, really, really helpful for migrations. If you've got a staging platform, you can set it up there and get a lot of your auditing done. There's two levels, so you can do a free, but you're not going to be able to do more than, I think it's 500 URLs. So and there's a lot of advanced other features that you get with the paid version. Paid version is 149 pounds or $193 USD annually. But as I said, it's a really great functional tool, great for technical audits and for migrations. Ahrefs is number three, and my favorite for competitive analysis, content auditing, really a ton of other stuff. Now they got a bunch of different kind of plans, and they have a Lite Plan, which is $99 a month. The next level up is $179 a month. Obviously, if you do an annual with them, I think it's about a 30% reduction in cost or something. So if you do have an annual subscription with them, it will be less. But this tool is definitely one of my top 3 favorite tools to use because there's so much you can get out of it. Conductor Searchlight is my number 4, and the reason they're number 4, they would be number 3 if I was on the enterprise side. So instead of Ahrefs, I would use Conductor Searchlight. This is the best platform for enterprise. I can do competitive analysis. I can do content auditing. I can even do persona segmentation and personalization. There's so much you could do. Predictive analysis. I can do large scale SEO programs. I can have 2 or 3, if I'm in-house for a large enterprise and maybe I've got 2 or 3 domains, I can include all of them in there and see at a very high level and manage them all effectively. The other sort of bonus is Conductor Searchlight has, well, one of the things I really appreciate about them is they do a great deal of research and development. They really invest in their platform and they invest in their people. They provide services to their clients. And these are services that many, certainly their competition does not provide. But it's really a lot of sort of helping to fill in the gap where if you're the in-house SEO and you don't want to necessarily work with an agency, they will supply other recommendations or recommendations for you to kind of offset some of that heavy lifting. They have a number of different professional services that they really kind of help with. The annual cost does range. It really varies, and because it's dependent on how many keywords, how many domains. There's just so many factors that kind of goes into what the average range is. And I don't know if 100,000 is the basement of their range. I know that in my experience, with having worked with a number of different clients, this was sort of like the baseline of what our subscription cost was. So I don't know if it's since dropped. It's been probably a couple, 2-3 years now since I've kind of understood exactly what the pricing is. But if you have any interest, I do have a number of good contacts over there. And if you really want a good rate, you want me to help you hook up with to kind of help negotiate a good rate, let me know because I'm happy to help. They are a solid company. And one that I have been standing behind since 2008, as compared to their direct competition, which is Brightedge, Search Metrics. There's a number of others, but as I said, this is my favorite for enterprise. So the next one is, or we want to talk about, is SEO plugins. Really, what's the deal with all these things? And this is probably not news to you, but you really don't need a plugin. If you think about all of the large, well-known brands that do rank very well, and even maybe not so very large, well-known brands, they do rank well. Many of them do not have a plugin at all. So that's one thing that you have to consider, is that you can absolutely make sure that you get SEO done without having to be reliant on making sure that your plugin is in place or you have the right plugin. You don't need the plugin. Don't rely on a plugin to do the heavy lifting of your work as an SEO. If you wanted to use a plugin, and sometimes, many cases, it does make sense. WordPress has many different types of plugins. There's the Yoast plugin. Not really a fan. I've used just about every kind of plugin there is. I'm not as much of a fan of the Yoast plugin. I know it's very popular, but my favorite is Rank Math. It's a great plugin, and it really covers a large ground of things we need to think about from an SEO standpoint. So if you wanted to use a plugin for your WordPress site, I would recommend Rank Math. Another really, really cool app is Schema app. It's a plugin, Schema app. It's also, so you can either use it as a WordPress plugin, API function. And I really was introduced to Schema app when I was working with one of my clients a couple years, actually a year ago now, when I was working with StubHub, and we were talking about how to automate and get loads of schema in across different areas of the site. And so schema app was the number one choice. And so I looked into it. I'm like, it does really work well. It's a $30. It starts at $30 a month. But if you have a large site and you need loads of schema automated, highly recommend that that plugin. So check that out. Again, if you're working with clients or if you're in an agency, this would be something you should definitely recommend using. So when it comes to image optimization, there's a few things. It's a non-plugin. It's called Image Opt-in. Let me just kind of show you Image Opt-in, and it's just there's a Mac version, but there's also other versions as well. Windows, if you have Windows version. It's a standalone. It sits on your desktop, and so when you want to compress an image, you just download the image, throw it into this application. It will condense it and does a really great job. So it also costs nothing. So really very good, helpful thing there. The other one is if you're thinking about a WordPress plugin, the Smush image opt-in or Smush image plugin. There's a ton of plugins, of course, that you could choose from. And I've used just about every one of them. I like the Smush one. It's fairly lightweight. It does what it's supposed to do. There is a paid version to it. There's a free version and a paid version to it. So you can kind of test out and see what makes the most sense. If you got a ton of images, might make sense just to pay for the paid version of it. Okay. Now, all of those other SEO tools. So there's if we think about local SEO, BrightLocal and WhiteSpark are my favorite local SEO tools. They're platforms, and they are very comprehensive in citations, looking at citations, and it covers a wide gamut of what you need to consider from a local search standpoint. I don't think I would choose both. I think it makes sense to choose one or the other. But try them both out and demo them and see what you feel most comfortable with. But either one of those definitely recommend. I've tried Moz Local. Not really. It's not really very comprehensive. I always found I had to supplement something else. I had to do Moz Local and BrightLocal or Yext or something else. So I wasn't really that much of a fan of Moz Local. But again, try it out. If you like it, everybody's different. Everybody has different preferences. I like BrightLocal or WhiteSpark. They do a real great job. On the international side, one tool I recommend is a human being. Okay, so do not use keyword research trying to go to look at maybe a Slavic language or an Asian language like Japanese and maybe you're based in North America and you're trying to optimize a site for certain products or services for that country. Using Google Translate is disastrous, especially when it comes to certain other languages, South Korean, Japanese. It mangles it up. And it's unintelligible, really, to the local speaker. It just makes no sense. It's also, yes, the cheap way of doing international search, but it's not the right way. What you want to do is hire, preferably, a local SEO in that country and work with them directly. Have them do the keyword research. Have them write out the title tags and make sure that the language, the different verbiage that they're using, the type of verbiage they're using is all accurate and correct. As I said, the worst thing you can possibly do is just, kind of tell them, oh yeah, this is something, that that we do is we use Google Translate. So please don't use Google Translate. Okay. Now what else do I have here for you? Oh, here, one of my last recommendation is to test and what I call is sort of a battle test, um, all of the tools that you want to use. So obviously you want to test something that's, apples to apples. So if I'm going to test an enterprise platform, I'm going to test a Conductor against a Brightedge and a search metrics. Let's say I'm not going to look at Conductor and SEMrush. Like there's apples and oranges, really. So when you're considering any size type of tool, always run a test. One of my early experiences in doing this was, I think it was back in 2008 or 9. I was working in house, and one of the other people I was working with, who also was an SEO, he seemed to like Brightedge a lot. And this was like early days of Brightedge. And then there was another tool called Covario at the time. It's since, I don't know, Rio SEO now or something. It's turned into something else. But it sort of like was our choices. Then I did some further research and saw Conductor Searchlight. And so this was really very early on in that company's existence, really. And so what I wanted to do was get an opportunity to demo and have time with all of them and just run. If I was doing an audit or if I was doing any analysis, I would do that same thing on that platform and then just try and do the very same thing on the other platform. And I actually started writing a blog post about it, and my ultimate winner was Conductor. And I remember at the time the Covario CEO responded to my blog post, and he said, when I was basically giving the negatives about Covario and why, as an SEO, I preferred Conductor, he was basically responded to me and was trying to have some conversation. Naturally, he must have had a Google alert set up or something, but it was really more so I was helping other SEOs at the time, just like, here's what I'm testing, and maybe you guys should try this as well. I didn't expect the CEO of Covario to reach out to me, but it was kind of funny and interesting. So ever since then, I had always kind of decided this is a really good way to understand what my preference is. When I started working at Accenture, I came with a very unobjective view of, hey, Conductor Searchlight is the best tool there is, because that was my experience. But now I'm coming into an environment where they were using Brightedge for some of their clients. So I was trying to make a case to replace Brightedge with Conductor, because again, for my own preferences and my experiences, I thought it was doing a better job. And from a price perspective, they're all very similar. There's not too many differences, really. So once again, we went through that whole exercise of, okay, we're running this test. I took myself out of the test, and I had other SEOs in the team run a test on their own. And again, they came back, and I asked, the consensus was, they also felt Conductor was more of the champion. So we were supposed to be technology agnostic and not necessarily make a recommendation. But many of my clients would ask me, what do you recommend? I would share with them my experiences from all the platforms, and then always gave them my personal professional recommendation was using Conductor. So again, you guys should definitely be testing which tools you want to use. If you're looking at Ahrefs, but maybe you want another comparable tool is SEMrush, certainly. I probably would put search metrics in there as well, just to kind of test them all, see what it is you can do. What do you have a preference? Don't really look at the pricing. Try to think about it from a feature perspective. Functionality wise, how does it function? Is it getting you what you need to get done? Are you able to complete your work? That's what's really important. So I hope that this has been helpful to you guys. We go again, just to remind everyone who's not a part of Expert SEO Masterclass, I'm reopening this class in January of 2021. So if you're not a part of our amazing class of September that we started, you can get on the wait list, and we're going to be starting again in January. but we go into all of this stuff in much greater detail. We do audits with Screaming Frog, Ahrefs. We get into the tools of it, as well as conversation on a weekly basis to talk through challenges and other issues. And of course, addressing any questions that you guys might have. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any of them. Comment below here. And if I don't get to your question in the next hour or so, I definitely will by the end of the day. But feel free to comment below. Let me know if you found this at all helpful. And I'd like to do some more of these. I think what I might do is probably maybe take one tool, just rip it apart, and then just kind of go into it. We can certainly do that as well. But you guys let me know what it is you need. So that's it. Happy rest of the Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you guys next week.